All right. Happy Sunday. We're back again here live on AfricanRadioOnline.com. And of course, we got the one and only Miss Yvette on the Soulful Afro Show. And this evening, we have a special guest, a good friend of the station, live and direct right here, right now. All right, Miss Yvette, how you doing today?
Good, Hassan. This is a good special Sunday, and this is a soulful Sunday, and it's an extra special one because our queen is back in the studio with us. Chioma is here today to have what I know will be an important, powerful conversation. Hope you're listening in at www.africaradio.online. If you want to call in, say shout out to us, 857-366-7256. This, as you know, is a Soulful Afro Show with Yvette, where we will be discussing the latest soulful happenings in the community. And we're going to jump right in. Today, I'm dedicating today's show, aside from our topic, to the young people of the His Project, young men, the Hermanos in Solidarity, and the young women of the Her Project, Hermanas Exchanging Roots. This weekend, one of our own got hurt in the community, so I want to send him light and love and send all of them, because I think each and every one of them was affected by what has happened to one of our own, and also extend a hug and light to the teachers and the staff of the school where we do the project, because it is a small community, so everyone in some shape or form was impacted by this sad occurrence. And as one of my mentors said to me when I told her what happened, she says, strength will come in due time. And these kids have shown their strength, and I know that they will continue to do so. Also, you see my hat today. It's my Panamanian hat. Okay, you know, this month is Mes de la Patria, so a todos mis panameños allá afuera, feliz Mes de la Patria.
In translation, for those of us,
it is month of the country, or month of our people. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th of November are our Day of Independence. Our day of our flag is the 4th, and then the 5th is the day of my province, which is Colon, which is one of the main provinces that had to do with our independence from Colombia. So, you know, proud colonense that I am, orgullosamente colonense con mi sombrero. So let's jump right in. So you're here, and our topic with you today is health. You're a health educator in the community. You are focused specifically on people of African descent, especially with the expertise around the continent. I've been very concerned about the Ebola issue on two things. It's the Ebola issue as the virus and the level of death. But then once I saw that happening and how it was happening in the continent, but then when Mr. Duncan came from Liberia and how it happened here, and then how the U.S. took it on, my first initial concern was this is becoming a stigmatizing of, once again, the African community as it has in the past. So jump right in. What do you think is going on? Why is this happening? Why are we seeing campaigns, I'm not the virus, I'm Liberian? Why did the turnout, the response to Mr. Duncan happen the way it did? Why is Angelique, the singer, having, you know, Angelique Kidjo did an interview with NPR last week and with Amy Goodman, and spoke about having a concert at Carnegie Hall and looking on her Facebook page and saying, should we have the concert, you know, was she in the continent? And she lives here, and she's an American citizen of African, you know what I mean? So she had to deal with, just because of her Africanness, which we all have, but because they see her from the continent, folks were writing in, should she even be doing the show? We have kids from Rwanda and New Jersey that haven't been able to go to school because the parents wrote letters that they're concerned. We have kids getting beaten up in Brooklyn because they're from the continent. We have kids in college getting bullied. Why? Why is this happening? What? I want you to go right in. I'm not asking Chioma to go back, because this is not the time.
No, well, I think you asked some very timely questions. I think they're filled with a lot of issues, right? And And I want us to ground it in sort of the history of the US, and I want us to ground it in the history of Black folks across the world. And so I think that one, we have to understand that we're in a society that already doesn't like immigrants. That is just anti-immigrant kind of environment here in the US. Now, I'm not talking about your next door neighbor, I'm not talking about the guy down the street, I'm talking about just, in terms of US policies, I'm talking about in terms of those who actually speak and make decisions, right? And so I think that's first. We have to recognize that xenophobia is in full effect, and that it's just coming to light in this way. I think also we have to layer it with the overall understanding of how you Americans see Africans, period. And it's again grounded in the way Americans see Black folks, period. And so I think that, we can't take this conversation away from the history of the United States and how just the overall environment of the United States towards immigrants and towards Black folks. Now, in saying that, I'm more concerned about the fact that it's a crisis happening not only in Liberia and Sierra Leone and Guinea, but we see that translating here to our communities, right? Our Liberian communities here, our communities from Sierra Leone and Guinea, in terms of folks are now in a position where they are concerned from their family members and friends, and not only that, their level of burden has increased, right? So I can speak of people, at least 10 people who have lost individuals. And because they've lost individuals, they've also been in a position of having to take care of extended family. So the burden is financial and emotional. And we're not talking about that level of impact. I think not we, but media is only talking about the number of people who are dying in those countries, which is important because apparently there's no urgency to saving those individuals. I would even say the underlying tone in that is really understanding infrastructure in Africa. I'm concerned that there's an overall level of ignorance, right? So how can you talk about someone from Ethiopia as if they live as if that's West Africa, right?
Yeah, I mean, like literally.
Like there's, there's a just overall ignorance about Africa, the continent, and the people, So my work tends to be more about what does it mean in terms of the impact of the communities here, because we're seeing that individuals. Next week I'm supposed to be going to a wake for someone's brother who passed away in Liberia because of the Ebola virus. Like, that's how close home it is. Like it's not distance. That's something that community members are talking about in the media, talking about very superficial. It's very close to home for folks, and so how are we able to deal with that and still support individuals to do what they need to do?
And the thing is that, it's hit close to home for the Africa Radio Online. A couple of the family, Hassan being from Sierra Leone, and also having to deal with that. But one of the things that you mentioned that you said is that how Americans see Africans, period, and how Americans deal with Africans. But also, that's even African Americans and how they see Africans.
I said Black folks. I didn't just say African. I said the way that the way that Black folks are treated and seen here in the United States. So it's totally related. It's
all connected. And that's the part that gets sad, is that it becomes those people because it's seen as something in the continent when everything becomes all of us. Because you and I walk out now and walk down the street, they can't tell that you're Nigerian and I'm Panamanian. We're Black. So the stigma could also fall on both of us.
And I think it's also a wake-up call for African immigrants because, I think there's a constant, and I talk about this all the time, there's a constant way in which people of African descent, we distance ourselves from each other. And we say it's them, it's not us. I've been in rooms with, Africans that talk about, Africans from the continent of Africa, that talk about there is no racism. I've been in the rooms with African Americans who talk negatively about Africans. And I think that there comes a time, and the time is now, that we recognize that we're all Black folks and that we're all enduring the same things. And I think this potentially could be a wake-up call for I won't say a lot, but for some Africans in terms of who they are as Black people in the United States. I know that there's been some back and forth about Mr. Duncan and him passing away, and what was some of the what was the situation around that. I've been told by several folks who are doctors and scientists that that his disease was not caught into the later stages, and that was the big issue. There was an issue around being able to have a blood transfusion because whether you can go for it or not.
But I can I just say something? And we're both immigrants is saying when I came here as a college student, I found it shocking that I had to explain where Panama was.
Oh yeah.
Like people did not know where Panama was, and as involved as the U.S. was in Panama, I'd be like, really? You've never heard about the Panama Canal? Like it was shocking to me. So I have to say, part of my initial reaction in hearing about what happened to Mr. Duncan and the fact that he went to the hospital with the symptoms, said I was in Liberia and he was sent home, was did that nurse know where Liberia was? Literally.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm getting to. Like there's all these issues that people are saying are the reasons why he passed, right? And it wasn't due to anything else but that he was diagnosed in late stages. They couldn't get a blood transfusion. But for me, it's what happened before that that caused him to get to that point. And that's why I'm saying now is the time for us to have a serious conversation about what does it mean to be Black in America, no matter where you're from. Because I don't think that interaction was about him being from Liberia. I think that interaction was about him being Black.
I'm a Black man.
Right. And being
let's get it even more complicated.
A solid Black man. Let's
get it specific. So can we say out loud today on the Soulful Afro Show is that what most people are thinking? How come out of all the people that have died of Ebola in the U.S. that have come from the continent, the one death has been this Black man?
Right. I mean, that's the question. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of people want to, I was in a conversation with a sister who is a scientist, and she's from Uganda. And she said to me clearly, Chioma, you have to understand the progression of the disease, and you have to understand that he came in at the late stages. And I kept saying, I understand that. I do HIV/AIDS work. I know what it means when you come to the late progression of a disease and how your body is already, not decomposing, but already, not able to fight off the disease. I understand that. But what happened before all that? That's my question. Why did it have to get to that point, especially if this brother was constantly going to the hospital and being very clear about where he came from? And so my point is, it should have been caught beforehand, before it even got to the late stages. So now answer my question, why did that happen?
Exactly. And
you can only come to one conclusion. Right?
Exactly.
That's it. And that's the conversation that we need to have.
But we're not having it. But we're not having it about Ebola. We're not having it about why we had Jordan Davis, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner. We're not having it about that. We're not having it about even Latin America and people of African descent, why Afro-Colombians are being threatened and displaced more than anybody in their country. So we can have it, but the key places where the policies are being made, where the decisions are being made, are not naming the bias, the implicit, the conscious and unconscious bias, the racism behind all of these conversations are not being had. But it's smacking us in the face.
But it's smacking people in the face who are forced to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. And unfortunately, the individuals who are making those decisions, who have that privilege and power, do not have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. So they have the privilege of not having to deal. White folks have the privilege of not having to deal with racism. Plain and simple. Black folks don't.
Well, that nurse. Let's speak about the nurse. I mean, she was like, she wants to sue Governor Christie for quarantining her. Her girlfriend went for a bike ride, did all she wanted to do. And they had the police sort of watching her, and she still did what she had to do. I mean, can we speak about that? I mean, that's privilege.
And nobody's saying how she should have been, locked up in a room somewhere. away from folks. Like
Mhm.
it's just it's a bigger issue. And unless we're dealing with the bigger issues, these continuous, and this is the same thing I say about the deaths of our black boys and our black men. Unless we deal with the bigger issue, we're gonna continue to see the impact of not doing something about it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
But I think you get to a big issue around, or what part of this is about the ignorance of Americans around Africa and the continent, even about Ebola.
Yeah.
Like I think,
Like you said, people are walking around with masks.
like even about Ebola, I'm like, are you serious, people? Like, are you really, really serious? You can't get it from air. You can't get it from food. Like, unless you're gonna touch someone's sweat, someone's semen, vaginal. Oh, can I say that on the radio?
Yes.
Bodily fluids. Unless you're gonna, you have no. You're not in harm's way. And the other issue is you have to understand there's only certain people that you need to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Individuals who just came back from Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. Not even Guinea, because Guinea has sort of
the numbers were low in Guinea
that
I saw. Or lower than.
And that brings me to a whole nother point. Like people have this perception about Africa, like we can't contain shit. Like we don't know what the hell we doing. Okay. There's particular
Bill
reasons.
O'Reilly, did you see him? He thinks that we should stop all flights. His comment, I'm going to read it to you and really stir you up. So what should the federal government do? Since it is Washington's obligation under the Constitution to provide for the common good. First of all flights from West Africa should immediately be discontinued to the U.S. and Europe should do the same thing. Now, I feel sorry for the West African nation, but there's an epidemic of Ebola there, and it will spread because
all of West Africa, there's a
and because the incubation period lasts for up to 21 days. Also, U.S. immigration should allow no one to enter this country holding a passport from any West African nation.
Anti-immigrant environment.
So,
I mean, what else? I mean, what you just called for me is just stupidity.
Yeah, and it's a level of ignorance.
And as if it's only Africans that are going back and forth to West Africa anyway. I've been on the planes, okay?
Let's take a break to have folks, marinate with all the good stuff that we just talked about. So if you are listening, thank you. If you have a comment and want to call in, 857-366-7256. This is a powerful sister we have on the show tonight, Chioma Naji. This is your time to call and talk to her directly. If you want to know it, you can get it here tonight. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
All right, keep it locked. Right here, number has 857-366-7256. Keep it locked.